Good evening, Honourable Minister Edward Cicluna, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I feel so privileged to be standing here before you tonight. I would like to thank our host, Joe Portelli, Chairman of the Malta Stock Exchange, for giving me this great opportunity. I'm here to talk about success. Not the kind we are used to hearing of. I will talk about how I think of it. I was asked to deliver something personal, not necessarily about business. Anyways, you get enough of that on the other days of the year. For those of you that don't know me well, I am an observer. I would be the one who prefers to study a room of people from where I stand, without making it obvious. I have done this since a very young age. Always wanted to understand why people behave in ways they do in different situations. I would say a person that likes to find out things on my own steam, firsthand. I struggled in school, in fact, as I understood better when I did things myself, directly, rather than be told. Life has shown me that when we truly understand the meaning of everything, of any one thing, it is only then that we truly move forward. By doing so, we gain ground and move steadily, confidently towards the goal we've set for ourselves. Why is she saying this is probably what you're asking yourselves. I have chosen to start with this as I want to talk about my experience of success, and not of monetary value, but one which delves much deeper than that. A depth which is hard to come in touch with unless you have touched the heights of what you perceive as successful. In my case, it was my career, together with marrying and becoming a mother, and then reaching the very bottoms of the very depths of darkness, a place which is so dark that you can hardly see or breathe. And once again, reaching out for new heights in the last few years, both in my career, with the expansion of AX Hotels, my family, with the addition of a new member, another daughter who has helped me soften some wounds, as well as on a personal level, have been writing a self-help book targeted at people who are going through personal difficulties. Now, I would like you today to relate to my story in your own life, whether it is personal or professional. So, this is the way I see it. Everything has a cycle, with no exception. We do too. We have our highs and we have our lows. It is all a matter of how agile we are to move when we have to, how determined we are to make it through, no matter what obstacles we have in front of us, how ready we are to push ourselves to new boundaries, and how ready we are to leave our comfort zone. Every person that has made great success are in fact the ones that have encountered difficulties. If I dare say, people who have made the greatest success have in fact encountered the greatest of difficulties. When we victimize ourselves and come up with excuses of why others have been more successful than us, we stop growing, to say the least. It will only bring us closer to the bottom. Life has taught me that you must always look at the bigger picture and have faith in yourself and trust yourself. With no exception, we all grow through hard times, most moments of difficulty, when the challenges faced seem impossible to overcome. It is precisely those difficult moments that are building you character. Character that pushes yourself or your enterprise to new horizons. Horizons you had never ever imagined you would ever get to see in your lifetime. I have learned that if you don't push yourself to find your own new capacity, and if you don't fall, you will always fear the fear of falling. Standing exactly where you are has taught me that it will get you absolutely nowhere. On the contrary, you would only be digging your own hole as you create more heaviness on a spot which is sore and needs attention. It is a known fact. The world is moving very fast. So if you are happy by retaining your position right there in your comfort zone, thinking you're at least not moving backwards, you are wrong. Standing still whilst the world is moving ahead will only take you backwards. Whether it is pushing the boundaries of a traditional hotel stay, or a traditional consumer experience, or the way people think, the most important thing is that you push those boundaries, because after you have done so, you will rediscover your new abilities. You will find out how resilient you can be, how much greater we are than how society has conditioned us to think, and how much courage you've got until you really need it. Only those that want to risk too far to possibly find out how far they can go will experience real growth, being personal or professional. We are not defined by what somebody says about us as a group, or as a group of people for that matter. We are defined by what we make of ourselves, with what is given to us. We are exactly who we believe we are. And as I once heard Oprah Winfrey say, we master our life when we understand that we are co-creators of our own life, and that not understanding that will put you in a pitiful, vulnerable position, victimizing yourself by what didn't turn up as you wanted it to. In fact, understanding what we have control on and what we don't have control on is the start. This applies for everything in life. Shockingly to hear, we are sitting in the exact chair we are supposed to be sitting on. We have no control over it. It is really about what we do with what we've become responsible for that makes us successful and greater than our own initial thought of greatness. Life and events have shown me that the only road to power is taking responsibility, your own responsibility. Success, in fact, should not be the ultimate version of a successful person. It is the result of a person who believes in himself and manages to bring out the best of him in the situation he is in, no matter how impossible it could get. I would now like to take you directly into my story. So, I come from a world of possibility. I actually grew up with that mentality in a family with business. But to add insult to injury, the impossible did happen to me. I will dwell on that after I have given you a very short summary of some facts that have outlined my life. I am a middle child. For those of you here that understand the significance of that, it meant you didn't enjoy the attention the eldest would get in the family, or the youngest would get in the introductions to the family. But you'd be the one pushing your own position as you went along. That brings with it similar joys of always getting the blame. On a serious note, this helped me to start mastering the art of self-defense, accompanied with the very fact that I was a daughter of this big businessman on the island who is so successful and looked up at, who happened to be my father, whom I also shared the same sentiment with, on a very natural note on the topic business. So as a young girl, I promised myself, since I share very similar passion and intuition on the subject, I would do my utmost to live above the shadow of my father and make a name of my own, but yet still adding value to the family and its business. It seemed impossible, but I worked my way up, slowly but surely, within the organization at an extremely young age, and made sure I worked double as hard as everybody else, with no exception, every day of those delicate years in my teens, instead of enjoying my freedom, just because I wanted to lead by example, and told myself the rest will follow. As I delved deeper into the subject, hoteliering and tourism, I realized I was trapped. I felt I needed to learn from the best if I wanted to bring in added value to our business and take our people and the business to new horizons. So I did. I studied in Glion Hotel School in Switzerland. It was already clear to me back then that we cannot stay in our comfort zone if we dream to achieve great things. And anyways, a pigeon that will always fly in the same area will never know what the world has to offer. My schooling didn't come cheap. In fact, as soon as I graduated, my father stepped up towards me, raised my certificate in the air, and said, "This is great return on investment." Whilst I was a student, of course, needless to say, I lived on a tight budget, so I could give back my father his return as soon as I could have. In my mind, not because he expected it there and then, but because I chose to. I don't like being in debt, and always strive to be where I am with my own merit and nobody else's, as hard as that can get. This mentality hasn't made it easy for me, as I would always choose the hard road and never the easy one. But in the end, it helped me immensely, internally, to build fortifications within me that could win over the obstacles I could see ahead. Ahead of me, I could see those struggles I would face to grow the business and steer it in the direction I'd feel it should go to, as well as living up to my family's reputation and possibly one of my own. Well, all that we are in control of. What I didn't see ahead of me is another level of impossibility, which was a tragedy no human being would ever want to see coming towards him. I am sure you could relate to the feeling of having worked very hard, lots of passion, love, and endurance. And when you do, then you take a deep breath and say to yourself, "I made it." Right there, right that same day I said that, the biggest tragedy one can ever imagine hit me. It hit me so hard, it took away the life in me. It left me breathless, speechless, senseless. It shocked me. It shocked the system. We are not trained or prepared in the slightest way how to deal with something as shocking, totally unpredictable, unexpected, and life-changing. Life has now taught me how to accept the unacceptable. And that when you want to succeed as hard as you want to breathe, then you want to be successful. So because I endorsed the world of possibility in the negative form, I told myself I could reverse this energy into making the impossible happen once again, this time in the positive. After a year of internal silence and looking at the million pieces of me lying there beneath my feet, as I know how, I started to collect those pieces, one by one, to create a different shape of me, this time a vintage model, a model that has seen life through thick and thin, that has become almost obsolete, into a collectible item. One that can inspire others to shape themselves into anything they dare to become, no matter what struggles they are faced with. So I started all over again. I thought differently, I saw things differently, I reacted differently, and promised myself the opportunity to dream again. Because I had taught myself how to tread on thin ice and on empty at times, I managed to cope, together with lots of love and support, of course. I immersed myself into the world of possibility for my family, the business, and myself. I gave new meaning to life and promised myself I would share that meaning with as many people as possible, and to always bring out the best from anything, even from nothing. I promised myself to push my boundaries and of all those around me, to push towards horizons we have never dared to picture in our heads, horizons we never dared exploring, to learn that limits exist only in our heads, both personally as well as professionally. My conclusion to you today, like the good old cliché saying goes, when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. And I will add my bit to that, and if you are good enough, you sell it, which is precisely what I am doing tonight. Thank you. I wish you a lovely evening full of lemonade. Thank you.